Hey there, YouTube. How's your week going so far? It is April 1st today. A quarter of 2024 is already gone. It's hard to believe. It seems just the other day it was Christmas, and before then it was Thanksgiving and Halloween. But as old folks used to tell me, and I'll tell you now that I'm an old folks, man, as you get older, that time just seems to start passing faster and faster. But anyway, today I just thought I was going to share a little from a personal angle about how I lose weight on a plant-based diet. Now, let me just say that I don't really gain unwanted weight, but in the wintertime, actually, this has been over the last 3 or 4 years, to some extent, since I've been back in the States from the tropics, is I kind of like to carry a little bit extra weight in the winter. Now, don't get too far ahead of on this. I'm not carrying. It's not like I'm packing on the pounds. And also, last summer I got back in the gym again. But yeah, in the winter I'll just tend to eat. And one thing I should mention too is it's not like I'm eating bad foods. It's not like I'm eating a lot of fat. It's not like I'm eating a lot of the wrong thing. It's just like I eat a lot of it. Like my green smoothies, I will go psychotic in the wintertime. Sometimes I'll just keep adding bananas in there until I'm like, how many bananas did I put in there? It might be 9 or so. But anyway, I usually stay about 5 pounds heavier during the winter than I do in the spring and summer, and even the fall, really. So the other day, and I think I've told you guys before, I keep a scale in my bathroom. I'm not one of these people that's phobic of a scale. I know so many people that they're like, it's like throwing water on a demon when you even talk scale around them. So I got on the scale, my usual time about a month ago, and I was like, okay, I weighed this. I'm like, time to take that 5 pounds off. So what did I do? I didn't start making out this elaborate plan. I didn't start doing a diet. I didn't start wanting to restrict or anything. All I did, and this is just the easiest thing in the world. I just backed off a little bit. Day by day. In other words, those smoothies, maybe, I started having 3 bananas less in my smoothie, or the equivalent of that. If we want to talk in calories here, let's just say that I just started eliminating something here or there, or not adding as much of it. I didn't really eliminate a food. It's just okay, well, I didn't use as much in this. I didn't use as much of these ingredients in my salad. I didn't use as much of these. And got on the scale yesterday morning, the day before, boom, back to that spring weight. So just drop those 5 really quick like that. Not super quick though. It was probably over about 3 weeks. So 3 or 4 weeks. So about a pound and a quarter a week. And it got me thinking, a lot of people could use this method as well. Now you're probably going to need a little bit more help if you've got maybe 100 pounds to lose. But I don't see why, even if you had, say, 30 to lose, this wouldn't work for you. And that's just, like I say, instead of trying to restrict yourself or do something that's going to make you very uncomfortable and you're going to fight against, you just start slowly reducing a little bit of what you're eating. Because obviously, if you're overweight, you have been eating too much of things. Now, also, too, I'm assuming with mine, because I've been eating like this a long time, that you're eating the right types of food and it's not just an amount type thing. Because I don't really, I live a different situation. I eat all the time by myself. I don't answer to anybody. I eat exactly when I want to eat, exactly what I want to eat. Okay, now the reason I'm not talking about all these specific things like cutting back on the fat, not doing that, is because with certain types of food, and once again, these are just according to how I think I should be eating, my way of eating, but I don't go overboard with the fat ever, or I don't go super overboard with fat. Sure, there's going to be an occasional day where I have this, and I'm like, okay, I don't need to eat that every day, but in general, I don't eat things like the nuts. I don't sit down and eat handfuls of them. In other words, I'm very intentional in how I eat. And I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of people have. And we can say it doesn't matter how you're eating, whether you're eating fully raw, whether you're eating cooked food, how you're doing it, this or that. I would even go so far as to say that even if you're not eating a plant-based diet, so many people are just simply not eating intentional. They're letting their tongues guide them. I mean, I've mentioned this before in videos. I remember back in the day, it was always like, especially if you were going to eat with somebody, what do you feel like today? What do you have a taste for today? In other words, most people just feed themselves just based on their tongue, just based on flavor and a taste, which is not to say that flavor and taste is important, but that is not the main focus of food and nutrition. You're not going to, I mean, if you've still got issues with the fat, well, you just got to work that out, because you're not going to be successful. Your health's probably not going to be too good if you are eating a high fat diet. When you're losing weight, whatever your views are on oil is probably not something, it's definitely not something you need in your diet when you stop trying to lose weight. And people always say, well, what about the healthy, this, that, and the other? And I'm not an absolute fanatic. There are times, I mean, there's a few things where I will use a little bit of olive oil in from time to time, but I'm talking very few and far between. Maybe, in fact, as I'm doing the video right now, I can't think of the last time I've used oil. It probably wasn't in March. And the biggest thing about things like oil and nuts is, well, oil more so, because oil is basically just concentrated fat. Also, too, people tend to not realize how much oil they're using, because a tablespoon, in theory, somebody says, well, I can use a tablespoon, but not that many people actually use a tablespoon. I know any time in my life where I've used oils on things, I've always poured heavy. And it's very easy, if you're just, free pouring, that you could easily get away, and before you know it, you've put 4 or 5, well, maybe not 5, but you've put 3 or 4 good tablespoons of oil into something. Same way with nuts. I just don't recommend, and this is just for me, that people sit around and snack on nuts. I'll tell you how I use nuts. I use nuts in specific amounts in recipes. Sometimes I'll chop them up and put some on an acai bowl or things like that. But the nuts can get away from you as well. It's not just, they don't have as much consequence as the oils. But anyway, not here to talk to you about fat. It's just about, like, you don't have to have this big, okay, this is what I'm doing. I mean, maybe that works for some people. You sit down and write out a plan. But you can just, like, actually, this has worked too in the past. I used to do this when I didn't even eat a plant-based diet. Once again, if you're not scared of the scale, have a scale. Get on your scale often. See what your day-to-day does to that scale. And you can just scale back what you're eating just a little bit. In other words, you get on the scale after 1 week, you haven't lost any weight, or maybe you've only lost a pound, which is actually good. You shouldn't try to lose your weight too much. All you do is, if it's not going in the direction, you just do it in little increments. You cut back a little bit. You have 3 less bananas that day. You have 3 less of this. Maybe, like I say, the equivalent, you're just like knocking back 300 or 400 calories a day from what you're currently eating. Maybe even sometimes as much as 5. But that's assuming that you are already overeating. First of all, like I say, and this is just a jumping around video because I haven't really had to focus on losing weight that much on a plant-based diet, but you've got to get to where you're making conscious decisions, and you're deciding what you're going to eat, and you're not like just willy-nilly saying, okay, well, I got to eat this. In other words, you have to be intentional. That's the biggest thing I would say, is being intentional about what you eat and eating your food for a specific reason. Whether you eat like me or not, know people. That's the biggest problem, and why people are having so many health issues, is nobody on the plant-based diet, on the keto diet, on the carnivore diet, on the paleo diet, except for a few certain people are not being that intentional with how they eat. And I just think that would solve a lot of the problems our health problems, the problems people seem to struggle with, if we were just intentional. Thought of ourselves as almost kind of like a machine. It has this certain fuel that needs to fuel our bodies, and that's what we eat. No question to it. But anyhow, I don't even know if this, I may have rambled too much. I don't know if this is going to be any personal value to you, but yeah, I mean, I can do it like that if I decide. Now, thing is I haven't had to lose big amounts of weight, so I can't really speak to as many methods there. But if you lose 5 pounds, you can lose 10 pounds. If you lose 10 pounds, you can use 20 pounds, and you just adjust a little bit along the way. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed this video today. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful week, and I'll see you here again tomorrow or Wednesday. Peace.